Hey everyone, welcome back. We have a lot to discuss and we got some really cool things to talk about today. We got like some generic news and stuff, which is not so generic. We have the end of the console war as we know it, pretty much this week. Kind of has to do with the it has to do with the news that you're gonna be talking about. There's basically Nintendo won, ladies and gentlemen. The console war is over, and you'll see why I say that in a bit. If you are a fanboy or fangirl, it doesn't really make any difference. This is not about sales or anything. It's about strategy. And so how do you want to do this? You want to go through the news?
Well, let's start with the Microsoft stuff because that's what
okay,
most
and
people
that
have been
ties
hearing
in.
lately.
So make sure you mention Helldivers at some point.
Oh yeah. Helldivers came. Okay, matter of fact, let's start with Helldivers.
Okay, go for it.
It's been a rumor for a while that Helldivers was going to come to Xbox, but it is official. Matter of fact, when is the release date? I gave it to. Let me get the release date we were talking about. Yes, Helldivers is coming to Xbox consoles, so that all you Xbox fans could finally join in. And what's the freaking meme? Do your part, whatever. That's Starship Troopers. But Helldivers is coming to. I thought I linked it to Jared here because we always keep track. Yeah, Helldivers is coming August 26th of this year. You could pre-order today. So official news. Anyone who's a Helldivers fan knows exactly what it is. There's no information on. There's probably some pre-order bundles, but bonuses. But there's no. From what we understand, there was no news about any kind of exclusive, content for Xbox users. Nah. But that's great because Helldivers was one of the big, huge hits when it came out last year and had some controversy on it, which is going to be interesting, Jared. Will the Xbox, how will Sony handle the PSN account thing on an Xbox? Will they require it or not? So that Xbox fans, please tell us. We'll probably find out more information on the internet, especially on Reddit once it's out. So yeah, Helldiver fans, it's one of the better premier co-op games. I played it every day with my buddy and his nephews for up to about the 35 mark, and we all kind of just it's good, but it needs more. It got repetitive after a while, but there's some people out there that just absolutely love it. And no disrespect for that. It was cool. We just thought it was just too repetitive. And we saw it from day one too. It's like, God, this is a cool game, but if this is the loop, the gameplay loop, we definitely can see it get old. And it did, for us at least, it got old pretty fast. But each their own. Some people love it. Some people. Anyways, so as we all know, Xbox had the Xbox gaming label, which includes all their, like Blizzard, Activision, King, etc. Under the Xbox umbrella have gotten layoffs. 9,000 jobs were lost. That's pretty deep.
Yep.
And Jared and I talk about this all the time about how the culture in corporate America, or I don't know, just corporate America, maybe the corporate world in general, is back in the day you would have to worry about layoffs when your company was struggling. Like, oh shoot, guys, what this means, the paintings on the wall. Now Microsoft, record profits all across all divisions for the most part. I mean, huge profit margin, like 46% plus. If other companies were going to get that kind of stuff, that's insane. Just laying off people, and it's not just Microsoft. But anyways, we're not here to talk about that. We've talked about that many a times. But yeah, it's just amazing to see that you could be working for companies that printing money, and you still have to worry about your job. They were really not too. They said that they're refocusing their efforts.
Whatever.
Bullshit.
Yeah. We're gonna talk. I really want to talk about this because guys, they closed. What's the name of the developer? What was it?
Oh god, it starts with an I.
Yeah. The guys that were doing the new Perfect Dark. It was supposed
Dark's
to be
canceled,
the first quadruple A game. And they just canceled it and closed the developer. And there was miscommunication because originally they said that Everwild had also been canceled. And if that was the case, then Rare would have pretty much been dead. They would have been done.
But the only thing is, like I told you, Sea of Thieves is actually thriving. So
but that doesn't mean
Yeah, that doesn't mean
anything
anything.
at all.
That doesn't
So
mean
I
anything
personally, guys, I think Rare's done. Between me and like you, I'm pretty sure Rare's done. I don't think I'll be very surprised if they manage to close out this decade. I will be very surprised. The other one that didn't get as much news, but Turn 10 has been gutted. They said they're shifting them into like a support developer. Now that's interesting to me because Forza was very,
either.
very successful.
Not only that, it's one of their long-term
Yeah.
series too. It's like a Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's like one of those type of things that's been there forever.
Yeah, so
I mean, they probably don't.
I don't
make
know.
a shit ton
So
of money,
guys,
but
the only thing that makes any sense in this is that they're basically rebranding themselves as a third party kind of publisher in the sense of, you know, they had like Xbox Game Studios, which, yes, I understand. Technically, Bethesda, Activision Blizzard are part of that, yes. But let's get real for a second. Bethesda is still operating completely on their own, completely doing their own, you know, like their own thing. Activision Blizzard has also, you know, been doing their own thing. And I think what Microsoft's strategy is like, to hell with hardware, to hell with software, to hell with all of this sort of stuff ourselves. For hardware, let's go AMD. We just did a partnership. You make the hardware. You know what I mean? Like, you take care of this. The Rogue Ally there, ROG Ally and stuff like that. Like, I think that's the strategy that they're doing, and they're just going to sever all their internal I mean, there was no reason to do what they did right now. Like you said, they were highly profitable. This has nothing to do with the acquisitions. These are long-term teams that they had. There's no reason to do this unless they're they're shifting their focus.
It's an initiative, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Developer for
Yeah,
the initiative. Yeah.
Exactly.
They were closed.
So the other, like, taking Helldivers into this is something that the two of us have talked about quite a lot, about the concept of an exclusive. On Sony's side, the big shift started with MLB The Show. Now, we knew, especially when the competition died, we knew that MLB was going to be like, no way are you going to be exclusive, right? Because like, we want the money. And so I think that was like the beginning. But personally, I think it was Horizon, Lego Horizon. They didn't need to do that. That's Sony's property. That's 100% owned by Sony. And so I'm pretty sure that was Guerrilla that was like, look, man, we want to make as much money as possible, you know? And now with Helldivers, again, this is a Sony published game. And so I just think that this is it. Like, this is the beginning of what will become the end of the sort of exclusive as we know it. And why I say the console war is over is because basically Nintendo, for better or worse, their strategy since the 80s has paid off now. They basically were like, listen, you can release, not back in the day, but now you can release pretty much anything you want on our platforms, but Mario stays here. Zelda stays here. And they sacrificed, and I put that in quotations because we'll never know, right? They sacrificed the larger potential market of like PC and mobile and this and that. And yes, of course, they do have mobile offerings and stuff, but they intrinsically realize the value of the properties they've had. They're the only company that fights as hard as they fight to make sure that you and I don't release, you know, Super Mario Pink or whatever and stuff like that. And I know that the sort of vocal internet folks hate, you know, like a lot of their practices and stuff like that. But this week pretty much was the nail in the coffin for the traditional console war. They have proven that they were right, that if you want to focus on hardware, The only way to focus on hardware is to have games that drive people to your platform. It's the only way. The thing with Sony, Microsoft, and I'll just say PC, okay, like as an umbrella, is that because you're striving for the best graphics, the best, like I want to be able to see that snot fly out of his nose and see it reflected in the water in real time and all that. No one realized that you were racing to the bottom by doing this. All of a sudden, development teams went from like 8 people to 100 people to 1,000 people to 10,000 people, where we talk about this, where we have budgets ballooning to over $1 billion. Guys, you cannot have
sustainable. No,
you can't have exclusives with budgets like that. You just can't.
And it's weird because rumors are saying there's nothing official, because I know Grand Theft Auto 6 is rumored to have that kind of budget, and it hears that PC players might not get the game until 2028. That's insane, man.
Yeah, but I think
if that game,
I think there's a reason.
The game needs to be there day one.
I think I think it's just optimization. I think that
they take their time.
Yeah,
because you see the review bombs on Capcom's Monster Hunter Wild right now for PC. It's not acceptable anymore, man. You could, like we said, maybe at the beginning when they started venturing into PC, they were a console manufacturer. Okay, they don't have enough experience, but that is bullshit because it's redundant. It's every friggin' Dragon Dogma 2. Look,
I know.
Great series, by the way. Look at the Steam reviews. Mixed, low, because it's just the game runs like utter shit.
But dude, I'm telling you, I would love to have like just heard what Nintendo's business strategy was, because let's be honest, all of us have complained at one point or another since the end of the GameCube era about power. Like, oh my god, why is the Wii so underpowered compared to everyone else? Why is the Wii U underpowered? Why is the Switch? Why is the But now, looking at this today, and I'm starting to sit back and be like, they were right. Like, they saw, or they just got lucky. It's one of the two. They either saw what was happening and that the budgets were just ballooning out of control. And the minute that happens, guys, like Steven says this a lot to me, where he's like, when a game sells 2 million units and is a flop, we have a problem. Like as an industry,
problem.
we have a problem.
You remember back in the day, like a Super NES era, or et cetera, even NES, if you sold 1 million copies, dude, that was the golden premium mecca. That was like the ultimate. Now, 1 million copies. Okay, did you make a profit? Oh, well, we're kind of floating there.
But
it's
exactly.
Like,
so you have,
it's ridiculous.
You have two things that you've got to do, right? Like that you have to do. If assuming you're not budget controlling, right? So like assuming that you want those, unbelievable visuals, 8K resolution and all this nonsense. If you basically have two things to do. You raise the price of the game, therefore decreasing the amount of copies that you need to sell in order to turn a profit, or you put it on everything under the sun and you hope to God that you can maximize your profits. And Nintendo saw this because they're raising the price of like all of their games. And we're not going to talk about like, about the stupidity of what anyone like feels about it or whatever. It's just Nintendo's actually preparing, even though their budgets are nowhere near like Grand Theft Auto and stuff like that. This is actually a wise business decision that they're doing, because by raising the prices, they automatically decrease the amount of copies that they need to sell. Because don't get me wrong, their budgets are going to grow. 4K assets and stuff will cause a higher gaming budget. But it's smart. Like what they're doing is very smart. They keep their budgets manageable, even though they have gone up. They increase the price of the games to offset that. And if they do get their multi-million sellers and stuff like that, then they're basically just creating the war chest to make sure that they can continue to do this. They're not they're in a position where they're not forced to release their products on everything, thereby driving further sales of their console because there's a desire to purchase their stuff. I just think that's why I'm saying, like, to me, the console war is pretty much over now because Sony and Microsoft have put themselves in a position that is just not, it's not sustainable. They have no choice. Like, and now they're trying to raise the price of their games, but then you've got the Tim syndrome, right? Which is you've been brainwashed with Steam that games are only worth about $20, $30, $40 and you'll wait until a sale hits. That's the perfect trifecta of a huge problem. Because if gamers wait for sales, think of the profits that you're losing on all of this while your budgets continue to balloon, you're exclusive to one platform. I think they killed themselves. Like they just.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know a lot of people do what I do. I mean, we even have Discord members who wait. But I don't know. The thing is, this isn't because I don't have money, guys. That's not the point. The point is, I just don't value. It's a value perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like I bring up Resident Evil, like whatever game. The games are great presentation, etc. But they're like 10 hours top. I'm not a purist or a completist, whatever you want to call it. I don't sit there and replay for every possible ending. I don't sit there and replay to undo all achievements. I don't care about that. Never have, never will. But I mean, it's cool to earn them quote unquote organically as you're just playing. That's fine. But I don't care about that. So I'm not going to be able to stretch a 10-hour game and get maybe 30, 40, 50 hours out of it. It's just not going to happen.
So you see the problem though?
Yeah.
That's a huge problem. Yeah. Like, because if you're Capcom,
well, with multiplayer games, though, I do tend to pay full price for them because those you could sink hundreds and upon hundreds of hours.
Right.
Into,
no,
right?
And that's for you. That's your value proposition. But what, if you're Capcom, what do? How do I convince Tim? Like, how do I convince you to pay $80 for this game? Yeah. It's not going to happen. And so. I don't know. This week was like when I saw the news, I just like sat back and I was like, damn, man, kudos to you, Nintendo. You know, like I gave them a hard time over the years of like, what are you doing? Like, why aren't you, going head to head? Now I'm sitting back here and I'm like, they did the right thing because by keeping those budgets, man, by keeping those budgets low, like, look, what was Donkey Kong Bonanza? It's like, I think it was like 26 gigs or something. That's insane. That's absolutely insane.
And the game looks really good, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, my God, like you'll download unoptimized pieces of crap that are like 100 gigs that don't offer the same, replay value, the same interesting gameplay and stuff like that. So anyway, I just thought this was really interesting.
Yeah, Nintendo's usually very good about optimizing hardware. There's been some cases like Nintendo didn't develop it. Game Freak did. Pokemon's exception, but there was that Echo of Wisdoms for Zelda. There was a little that I think was because they just couldn't get the most out of they were just pushing that hardware to its max and just couldn't keep up. But Switch 2 seems to resolve those issues. But yeah, for the most part though, when you buy a Nintendo game, you know that it's not going to be a buggy piece of crap, and that they don't tend to have a lot of microtransactions and stuff like that. So yeah, at least you know what you're getting with Nintendo. Mm-hmm. And I always said, I guess be careful what you wish for. I'm like, man, this company could make tons more if they just milk gamers dry like everyone else does. But they don't. So, well, for the most part.
Yeah, so keep going.
Are you good? No. So we also have, so Everwild was miscommunication from Rare was not canceled, which is good. It's good to see new IPs. So we also have some sale information as well. In Japan, hardware sales from June 23rd to 29th, Switch 2, obviously 161K. Switch 2 is number 2 for 15K, outselling, PlayStation 5 only 7.3K, and then Xbox Series 353. I wonder, Microsoft, why are you even in Japan? Hey, I guess $1 is $1 at the end of the day. But Switch 2 is dominating Japanese. Like every market, Mario Kart World has been raking in money. Almost 1.2 million copies in Japan alone. It's the number one selling, software in Japan right now, and it is actually, I think, all top for Japan.
Do we have?
No, Death Dude, this game though is selling really good in opening a week in Japan. Death Stranding too. Interesting. Okay, wouldn't expect that to do very well over there. But anyways, it is, which is good. The top selling Switch 2 eShop bestsellers. Take a guess what it is, guys. Mario Kart World. Next, though, Fantasy Life I, which is good to see. Third party. Number 3, Cyberpunk 2077, which is great. Tony Hawk's number 4, 3 of 4. Then Zelda upgrade pack, Tears of the Kingdom. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 edition selling, and then Zelda Breath of the Wild Switch 2 edition, and then Street Fighter 6. So good to see a lot of third-party companies having success, which makes sense, right? I'm actually kind of surprised that Street Fighter 6 is selling pretty decently, because we've said many times, I said that it's already sold. It's like maybe a few people will get it, but obviously people like the game and it's selling, so it's good. Mario Kart World, again, is the best-selling retail game in South Korea, followed by both Switch 2 editions of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So Zelda's doing extremely well. Good to see. And then we have rumors, guys. So it looks like the next Nintendo Direct leak, Expedition 33 and Black Myth Wulong are coming to Switch 2.
Yeah.
So
rumors.
that makes, well, these
Whatever.
rumors tend to be very good.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
there's a documentation there too. So
these things, I'm always like, yeah, whatever. Like, even if
you don't think
even if they
Expedition will?
even if they do, at the end of the day, Expedition I think has a better chance. Claire Obscure Expedition 33 I think has a better chance of being more successful than Wukong, only because Wukong now is starting to get a little older, whereas Expedition 33 is relatively new.
Yeah, exactly, and it's one of Game of Year candidate. But Black Myth, look at Street Fighter 6 is doing good.
Yeah. No, yeah, you never know.
You never know.
No, you never know. Just FYI, for official sales, I'm on Nintendo's website right now. It should be next week or the week after that we'll get the official sales, because it was last quarter, right? January, February, March. So we got all the sales as of March 31st, 2025. And so the quarter just ended, but because of the holidays and stuff like that, it should be either this week or next week we will get the official sales. And if they do what they have done all last gen, it's going to be mighty interesting, because they give you dedicated video game sales units. So that's where they say like how much hardware was sold, how much software was sold as like a whole thing. And then you get the top selling titles, first party, of course, for the platform. And remember that this goes back to the DS. I would have loved if they would have went all the way back, but they did go all the way back for hardware. For hardware, they went all the way back. And which is super cool, right? To get official numbers all the way back. But yeah, I'm really excited to see. And this is where I'm going to plug another podcast. So guys, you probably
before you do that, let me finish up on the news, and then because I want to talk about that podcast stuff a lot. Hold that thought.
Yeah.
Anthem servers are shutting down January 12th, 2026, which at the time the game will no longer be playable. Also, Anthem is leaving EA Plays on August 15th. Poor BioWare, man. They just never found their groove. And they were such a talented developer back in the day. I mean, so many of their games are literally gold. It kind of reminds you of Blizzard. Now look at the struggle Blizzard's doing, which Warcraft Rumble was just announced as well during that layout that it's going in maintenance mode for all you Warcraft Rumble fans. So that kind of sucks. Xbox removed Contraband announcement trailer developed by Avalanche Studios from their official YouTube channel with no other information, nothing, just stealth removal. So kind of AKA cancel, looks like, which is interesting. If you watch the trailer, really didn't show much. It was a co-op focused game and it seemed kind of cool, but open world, etc., etc. And then a little tad bit, which is kind of funny. John Romero's unannounced Xbox publishing title project has been canceled by Xbox. We didn't know about it, what it was, but whatever he was tying into, it's now officially canceled. So that's a little tribute. All right, go ahead, Jared. Let's talk about the
podcast. So you guys might remember part of the marketing team for Nintendo of America during the Switch and 3DS era was a sort of a duo came out called Kit and Krista. They eventually would leave Nintendo because I think they realized
Yep.
that they got quite a big following. They actually are just about at 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. Kudos for them. I always like them because they're just jolly. Like their podcast.
Yeah, they were excellent charisma together, and I watched some of this. Yeah, it was on Nintendo. So it was kind of sad. I remember when they did their farewell, you could tell she was emotional about it, but she was holding it back.
Yeah,
so was he. But they're glad that they were successful.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they did their own thing. And anyways, so I subscribe to them. I really enjoy their podcasts and stuff. And yes, of course they're Nintendo focused. But like when God of War comes out, they'll talk and say like, hey, well, sort of like what we do, right? Like what are we playing and stuff like that. So anyway, they had a guest that was just so cool. It was Shuhei Yoshida, who, if you guys don't know, I mean, he was part of PlayStation since like literally day one. He was like first party president, then he went into like indies, and I think eventually Sony changed, to be really honest with you, and he was getting kind of like moved aside. He won't say that, but I think so. I think that's what was happening, and he just reached the point in his career where he was like, well, I've kind of done everything, right? Like for this company, and you're making me like a glorified nothing, And he had so many contacts and stuff like that in the press that I think he kind of was like, well, I guess I could be like an influencer now and just do the circuit and talk to different people and sort of enjoy kind of like an early retirement type of thing. And so he has been. He couldn't go on David Jaffe. It was so funny because, the creator of God of War, like because he drops F-bombs every 2 seconds and he holds nothing back and all of that. But he liked David Jaffe. Like he always liked David Jaffe. And he used the example. He was like, well, I can't let him interview me, but what if I interviewed him? And it's awesome. You guys go check that out. If you can tell they're long friends, like they've been friends for a long time and stuff like that. And it was really, really cool. And so anyway, Kit and Krista actually had a chance to sort of interview Shuhei Yoshida, and man, is it good. It's one of the best podcasts in gaming that I've ever listened to, watched, whatever you want to call it, because he doesn't work for Sony anymore. All his NDAs are long past. He can talk as openly as he wants. And it was fascinating to see that, like, he is a lifelong Nintendo fan. Like, he's been, for his kids, he plays himself. And he's so funny because he even says in the podcast, like at the beginning, he's like, I have to be so careful what I say because the press picks up everything I said. He's like, I left one comment about the Switch 2 where I said, I said it was awesome. I've been having a blast and all this sort of stuff. And he's like, but I said just one comment where I said, it's a little safe. It's a little safe that Nintendo is known for taking chances and doing things a little bit different. And he was like, I found this one was, just a little bit safe. That's it. He's like, the next day, everywhere, Yoshida-san says like Nintendo Doom, they've lost their soul and all this sort of stuff. So he's like, I have to be careful what I say. But it was so cool. It was so cool because like they were asking him about things like, why did Sony go and make the PSP? Like, did they see the success of the Game Boy and like, want to emulate that and whatever? And he was kind of laughing because he's like, you say that as like a fan, like as a gaming fan, you look and you think of things like that. He's like, truly, he's like, what it really came down to was PlayStation 1 sales, when they plateaued, they start to go down, right? So you eventually announce your next platform, and then that starts to, your new platform starts to go up. But he's like, but there's manufacturing costs and all of this supply chain logistics. Like, this guy knows his stuff, man. Like, when he starts dropping these terms, I'm like, okay, all right. Like, you know what you're talking about, man. And he was saying that there's like an X, right? That kind of forms where one platform's going down, the other platform's going up. But he's like, but they're not at that plateau on either side. So he's like, so you get this like window of years where your overall sales just aren't, they're not bad, but he's like, but they're not at that, huge high level. So he's like, there was a period in there where we were like, well, what if we could have another platform that would follow the same curve as the other one? So think of it like a bell curve, right? So it goes up and it comes down, up and down, up and down. And he's like, take those and just put them side by side. So you'd always have the up, right? While one market's going down, the other one is going up. And so when one is at its lowest, the other one's at its highest. And I was like, that's business. Like, that's good business.
Yeah, because didn't you say he also said that it doesn't make business, it's a bad business decision to go into a market that's being dominated by someone else.
Exactly. He's like, guys, he's like, you don't go. He's like, what kind of nutcase looks at a market that's being dominated by a rival and say, oh yeah, we got this. He's like, he's like, but
and that's good. That's why I was trying to tell you, as we always say, is these comments, these keyboard warriors online, they're looking at it from a fan perspective, and they have no sense. All the people, and I'll even say everyone who says those negative comments, et cetera, they have no business sense at all. They have no understanding. Either they're children or ignorant individuals, and I don't mean ignorant in a negative sense, that they are not educated in business practices, and they have no idea what they're talking about. And that's what I hate about these comments. It's like, dude, you're freaking talking crap. You have no business sense. You don't understand how things work in the world. Either you're children or dumb people.
Oh gosh! All right,
no, it's true though.
Wow, I can't wait to see the comments on this. So of course, he's like, of course you do a competitive analysis and you look and you see, and he's like, when we were looking, he was like, we realized like we could create something that was like in between PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 using components of those two kind of platforms, and talking again about supply chain and about like reusing existing technology, software development kits and all this sort of stuff. They ask questions about how every single one of the console manufacturers, every one has had a big success and then like let's just say a failure, like a real failure. So he's like, they were saying like recently with Nintendo was the Wii U. I mean, coming off, I've got it open right here, right? So coming off a platform, two platforms, the Wii sold 101.63 million units and the Nintendo DS sold 154.02 million units. To come from that level of printing money to a platform that sold 13.56 million. Like, ouch, right?
Matter of fact, I think I linked another podcast from some history for Nintendo. We should talk about that soon. The myth about Nintendo's up and down failure is actually just a myth. The Wii is the only real bad, huge drop, because if you look at the GameCube, it sold less than the previous generation, but it wasn't a huge drop off like the Wii U was.
No, yeah. So I've got the numbers right here. Okay, so like the NES was 61.9. Like, let me round. Okay, so guys, so 62 million. The Super Nintendo was 50 million. So right there, guys, that's 12 million less, right?
Less, but it's not considered a failure though.
No, not at all. Now, what's 50 million minus 12 again? Right? So now you're looking at, what did I just say? 50. So you're looking at 38 million. N64 was 33 million. Right? And then after N64, let's do it again. And it's 22 million was the GameCube. Now, if it went 62 million, to 22
to
million,
20, then
then
that's a
that
big
would have
credit.
been really,
You
really.
got, and also a lot of you youngsters don't remember this or weren't alive, but Jared and I were through all these errors. The NES really virtually was coming off a huge crash of the
Yeah.
Atari and etc. So there was no competition.
Yeah.
I think and then Super NES onward, there was competition, and Sega did really well with the Genesis, by the way. And
Well,
that took a lot of,
no, dude, absolutely.
Yeah.
So like Shuhei was talking. Obviously, they said about the PlayStation 3, right? Like PlayStation 3, yeah, guys, that was a big drop. Like PlayStation 2, much like the Nintendo Switch, was like 150 million units that thing sold. PS3, I don't have the number in front of me. I think it was like 60 something. That's a big drop. That's a huge drop. And so I love that, you know, he was talking all about that and saying how like it literally is like, look at the Xbox. He's like, at Sony, they consider Microsoft the target. They do not even count. Nintendo's not on any of their charts. They're not even on any of their business charts at all. Like Nintendo doesn't even exist to them. But he's like, you know, after the Xbox 360, we had an in, and he's like, we took advantage of that opening that we had, and the results speak for themselves. Like ever since that fumble that Microsoft had with the Xbox One, they have never been able to come back ever. It's like it. I've never seen that before, where user confidence was like eroded so quickly. Like I'd never seen that before. Even with Sega, like, yeah, the Saturn burnt a lot of people, but people loved the Dreamcast. They were hyped for it.
Oh, dude, I love the Dream. It was a great system.
It was just that it couldn't compete with the mainstream juggernaut that Sony had. Like people don't understand that like having a DVD player in there was brilliant at the time.
Yes.
And
God, if Sony, if people forget, Sega made a lot of it, and they always talk about Nintendo's innovation. Sega was one of the first for a lot of stuff. It's just their management was just all over the place.
Exactly.
They couldn't focus.
Yeah, and
correctly.
they were a good example in like Lean Six Sigma. We have like this concept in process improvement of like over engineering. Right? Sega, you can call it innovation. You can call it innovation, but you can also call it over engineering. That you know, like it's insane to me that like the Sega Channel was available in the United States. People forget that, where if you could actually stream in different games, and they had exclusives and stuff. But
yeah, way ahead of its time.
But the thing is that's the thing. It was too ahead of its time, where it's like, you know, there is a time where your innovation and market readiness must meet, and if they don't meet, then you're just wasting your money. Like
an example too is Google's Stadia.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was Cloud's starting to catch on, but even today, man, I love Xbox.
You have to have the infrastructure. That's the thing, and
we don't have it really.
No,
people forget. I have fiber. I'm lucky here in LA, but not everyone's lucky, dude. And that's the thing that a lot of like Japan and South Korea are way ahead of us in infrastructure.
Well, yeah, because it depends. It's like Portugal, right? So like when I go to visit Portugal, you know, if I talk to you about landlines, okay, like phone landlines, you're going to know what it is. Today, everyone's gone to cell and stuff like that, so not everybody has a landline anymore. But the point is, like, you know what that technology is. If I go to Portugal and I start talking about landlines, they're going to look at me like I'm insane. They're going to be like, what the hell is a landline? Because they've been using cellular technologies for decades, you know, but because of that, they are so far advanced in that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm not defending the U.S. because we shouldn't, but they don't have. It's not our priority, right? Two, United States is huge, man. So there is that of sense.
Yeah, of course.
I can see it from a business perspective. It's working. We don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
Now. But like Portugal, Japan, South Korea, they're substantially smaller.
Of course,
not all of Japan has great infrastructure, guys.
Yeah,
just the major cities.
Yeah.
So it's easy, quote unquote, easier for them because they don't have as much land. I mean, dude, we have like Utah. What the how are you going to put good
Dude,
infrastructure in Utah? There's nothing.
Dude, forget the U.S.
Montana. I mean, come on.
Look at us.
Montana, you're the same thing. You have
we're the second largest country in the world, and we have
like most of your land is useless, right?
It's resource, right? Like it's all, it's like, and anyway, but that's the thing. So, anyways, part of the podcast, something interesting. I know it was discussed. But all of us, I just feel like everyone kind of, like, we heard the news. We were like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then we all just, blah, 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 and we all just, like, sort of moved on and whatever. So, my friend, how much is the Nintendo Switch in Los Angeles? If you go right now, you get off and you go and you want to buy another Switch, how much is it going to cost you?
Without Mario Kart, it's $449.99. With Mario Kart, $499.99.
Okay, so $449. So let's do it here. A Switch to Canada price.
Yeah, let's see.
I think it's $699.
Oh, by the way, when we're discussing it, Cranberry and I have been playing Mario. It's such a. I mean, I miss that series. We've been having such a good time. I wish you could join us.
Public service announcement for Mr. Tim here. He's played 5 hours of.
Hey, that's a lot. That's a lot.
I think I'm up to like.
Unfortunately, she's not available.
Hours.
She's not available all the time. She streams.
Okay, so let's go to this conversation because this is interesting. So let's do the same thing. So $630 Canadian for we're just going to talk system. Okay. Okay. Now let's use the US as that dollar price, because the Canadian dollar is like in the toilet, which is why the conversion is the way it is. Okay. So you said 450?
Yeah.
Okay. So 450. How much do you think it is in Japan? Wah, wah.
Assuming it's similar. No, probably a little bit more.
It's $320.
Oh, yeah, it's also cheaper. Wonder why.
I'll tell you why. He said. So Shuhei said he was like, I don't know how they did this, but he's like, they're pretty much giving it away. So there is a Japanese, which you guys know this, there is a Japanese only version where the software is only in Japanese. It's not, if you want the international languages, it's the same price. It's the whatever, $450. And so he's like, but software costs nothing. Like the firmware costs nothing. It's the same cost of goods sold, right? Same manufacturing costs, same everything. So he's like, the fact that they're doing that, he's like, as a Japanese man, he's like, I'm very proud of them. Cause he's like, the truth, they're doing it so that they are guaranteed a foothold in Japan that won't leave. He's like, they're basically giving it away to their local countrymen and women. And he's like, that's costing them. He's like, I assure you that is costing them money to do that. And then they have a whole conversation about the Japanese market. And he's like, guys, you need to understand. He's like, the Japanese market today is 10% of the global market.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah.
So he's like, who cares? He's like, they're giving it away. He's like, they're basically just saying, well, you're part of our homeland. So here you go. Here's a Switch 2 for virtually nothing. And he was like, but I never would have been able to convince Sony to do that. He's like, never. So he's like, whoever managed to do that, he's like, that's a very interesting move. Like, very interesting. And he said, it's like, they just want to be guaranteed that market will remain theirs. And he's like, it will. At that price point, he's like, are you kidding? He's like, that thing is going to sell out constantly. And power to them, man. Like, but
yeah, because people forget that Nintendo has an iron grip on the Japanese market. I mean, so, like he said it right there in the podcast. Sony just, okay, whatever, we're out, because they know the rest of the markets outside is more important.
Well, and they even moved. He said, he's like, we moved our headquarters from Japan to the United States, because he's like, it doesn't make sense that we're building products for 10% of the world? He's like, that doesn't make any sense. So he's like, we went to our largest markets, and he's like, that's the way that influences. But I love the way he talked about it. Like, I just thought it was so cool that he was like, Nintendo is definitely losing money, like, doing this. And he's like, but they don't care. They're showing the pride of their own people. I thought that was really cool. Like, I really thought that was cool that they look at it and they're like, what's the most we will ever sell, right? Like, the most we'll ever sell is
interesting, though.
20 million.
It's so interesting. It's so prideful. You can tell Japan's a very conservative, prideful company. You could tell, but it's so like Japan's so important for them. But at the end of the day, from a business standpoint, it's like I kind of agree with Sony. It's like, well, they're only 10%, but they're still dominating other markets. That's the point.
Yeah.
They are dominating other markets, but so why do they hold so cherished to that?
I think it's because they can. I think it's that simple. I think it's like they have the financial freedom that it really, like, like you said, right? You're like, oh, it sold like 1 million or whatever, right? Yeah, okay, but I bet you by now in the rest of the world, we're probably near 10 million. You know what I mean? Or like 8 million or something like that, that they're nearing that threshold. So I think they just don't give a crap. Like, I think they're just like, you know what? If you're Japanese, here you go. We want to make sure that we stay number one.
Think about it. Too bad American companies don't do that for Americans. Like, have our American products substantially lower. That would drive like U.S. car manufacturer. Well, the cars are expensive to manufacture, but imagine if the car manufacturing price was so much lower than the imports, then people would be buying it. But well, Tesla's doing extremely well in certain markets, like especially here in LA. But certain more quote unquote hardcore American pride, like the southern states, probably not so much, because they love their Ford pickups and their Ford cars. Like, buy American, but we're not going to get into that.
But no, but I just thought, I don't know, like, so guys, like, highly encourage you to go check that out. It's a fascinating podcast to hear kind of the duality between a Sony executive, and they weren't executives, but like, people that were in the marketing, so had insider information to Nintendo, and just really, I just thoroughly enjoyed the chemistry between all three of them. And I love that Shuhei was like, I really like that guy. Like, he's just super open, super honest. He says the same thing as you, Tim, where he's like, the days of exclusives are coming to an end. And he's like, it's both a good and a bad, right? Because he's like, the bad is, why is anyone ever going to buy your hardware if there's nothing unique about it? Right? But on the flip side, the more people that get to experience your game, technically the better it is. But he says the same thing as what we've been saying. He's like, those costs must come down, because he's like, if they don't, he's like, there won't be an industry. There will just be Nintendo. Like, that'll be it. And trillions of indie games, and that'll be
that's why I think indie games are doing so good, man, because the cost is usually better, and stuff like that. And it shows you, like, you don't need amazing graphics. It's so funny because there was a time where graphics was the premium cup of the cup or whatever, top of the top on people's stuff, and everything else was not. And now it's kind of reversing back, man. You have these, pixel art games that are just killing stuff. Now, I mean, we hear success. There's a lot of failures in the market, but yeah, it's kind of good to see that, gamers aren't so, there's people are still very concerned about visuals, which is kind of funny because, one of our Discord members rats on Fallout 76 looking like an old, it doesn't look like a 2025 game, which, it isn't a 2025 game. The game's actually pretty old now, so I don't know why they don't like the visual. But the point is, the visuals aren't everything. And another thing, too, is, I'm going to butcher this guy's name, but the chief executive officer of Sega America and Europe, as well as a COO, president of Sega's corporation, commented on the success of Nintendo Switch just recently this week. Is that back in 2027, Nintendo had a lot to overcome, and there were plenty of doubts surrounding the console after the Wii U turned out to be a failure. Support from third-party properties was initially slow, and many things pan out. So he says, since I was a member of the PlayStation launch team. I have a big attachment to the console business, and Nintendo has been playing an amazing role. Jesus, they made a great contribution to this area. I didn't expect Switch 1 to be successful. No one did. And that's kind of good to hear other executives talk about that yeah, especially after the disaster, I think people counted Switch out, man. So
yeah,
like now,
I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due. Like I've always said this, like when the Wii U from a concept was a good concept. The problem with the Wii U came to execution. When and I always bug Steven about this, but like, he used to text me and be like, man, this sucks. I can't sit on the John and play my game. Like it loses the signal, like with the whatever, the base console. And that was kind of my experience, like with the whole thing, was that kind of like, I don't want to say half baked, but like it just wasn't there. Like it was so close. It was so close. And I mean, great games look, Christ, half of the Switch's library is Wii U games. But like, that was the thing with that. Like, they had, the whole problem with the naming convention confusing people, the whole, that whole thing. But for me, it was the biggest problems with the Wii U was basically that. It was just that, like, the whole thing felt a little undercooked. Like, remember how slow the UI was? Like, when you wanted to go into, like, look at, like, the eShop, when you had, what was it called, where you could draw all the stuff? The Weverse or the Miiverse, I think it was, the Miiverse.
Miiverse.
That was super cool, but it was just... I always felt that it was like just a little underbaked for the concept. And when the Switch came out, the difference there was that it was like, okay, this is what you guys wanted to do with the Wii U. Yeah, the Wii U, you wanted to have the DS's 2 screens, like, sort of thing. But that idea that if someone was on the television, that you could use your gamepad to continue playing the game, the the Switch just like really took that like and just went to the extreme. And I mean, it introduced a whole new category, because even Shuhei was saying about that. He was like, I wasn't sure. He's like, because he's like, you have to think that the 3DS was a huge failure when it came out. And he's like, kudos to Nintendo, man. They saw the writing on the wall and they immediately pivoted in order to boost the sales. But he's like, even then, it was like 50% decline compared to the DS. And he was like, let's not even talk about the Vita. But he was like, it's because... he's like, as Sony, he's like, phones stole all our markets. He's like, you have to think, he's like, you got to remember, like, when we talk about Sony, we're talking about a company that used to make cameras. But now you can just walk around and have almost a professional camera with you at all times. He's like, not only a camera, but a camcorder, the ability to record stuff. Oh, look at that. Who needs a Walkman anymore? It can also do music. Oh, it's also And he was like, every one of our markets was getting taken over by a single device. And he was like, we tried. Like, we really tried to go into, like, the phones and stuff, but we just never could have that level of success. And he's like, when Nintendo experienced the same thing, that now all of a sudden this same device is what kids are playing on. Steven's kids, they play almost everything on phones, tablets, and stuff like that. They're not playing on consoles. And so he was saying, it was like, even I wasn't sure there was a market for the Switch, because he's like, if it's a portable, why am I gonna play this when I've got my phone, right? So, but he said, he was like, I cannot express how important it was for the Switch to be successful. He was like, it was so important because it proved that people were willing. And he's like, it created the whole portable PC market, right? The rise of the Steam Deck and all of that. And he's like, now we know people like that. They like being able to take their device with them, go somewhere, plunk it in. Suddenly I have it like on my TV. He's like, it's so easy. You can bring it to a hotel and do the same thing. And he was like, so yeah, while I don't think it was like the most innovative approach that Nintendo took, he was like, from a business standpoint, he's like, this makes perfect sense. And he's like, and look, they're just killing it right now.
Yeah, matter of fact, there was a report that this week too last week about how Nintendo executives were very fearful of the mobile market.
Of course.
Time too, yeah,
man,
very fearful. So that it was in the back of their mind. And it's good to hear insight like that because Nintendo's very hush hush. They don't really. I mean, dude, they don't even tell us the official stats of their freaking hardware anymore.
Yeah.
So you need third-party vendors to get that information.
Yep.
So I still don't understand why they don't, because no one cares. I can understand with the Wii at the time.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Subpar.
Today, no
But
one gives
it's
a
like,
crap. Like, it's,
yeah, no one gives a crap, but they still don't say
Yeah.
it. And maybe they don't really care, but at the end of the day,
the one thing that I'm confused is why, like, hardware, okay, I still don't quite get it, but okay, maybe you don't want people comparing and being like, oh, the screen or oh, the thumbsticks or whatever. But the developer of Donkey Kong Bonanza, why did you wait like 2 weeks before it's released to say, yes, it's the Super Mario Odyssey team? Like, I don't get it. Like, that, are you nuts? Me, when I would have done the direct, the first thing I would have done from the creators.
Hype, dude. That's instant hype. I don't
Exactly.
understand why yeah.
I don't get it.
And like you said, there's really no competition for Nintendo anymore. It's so cool hearing that Sony's like, they don't exist to us, which makes sense. Why would you focus on something you can't touch, right?
Well,
So,
he said it. He said it best, where he's like, you have to understand that he's like, you can't compare Jaws, Star Wars, Jurassic Park against, a significantly lower budget film. Like, you can't do that. Like, yes, the film, your indie film might be like really good, amazing story, amazing everything, but he's like, but you can't say that is a direct competitor. He's like, each one of those games, there's like hundreds of millions of dollars budget. Like, The Last of Us, for example, could have cost more than 10 or 20 Switch games. So I kind of get that, where it's like, no, we want to compare against Gears of War, the same guys, that are spending the same amount of money as us. I still personally would definitely have had Nintendo on there because I'd want to watch what the market is doing, and he even said it. He's like, the Switch outsold the PS3 and the 360. Like, combined. Well, maybe not quite, but close, And he was like, we used to do internal charts. And he's like, this is one of the reasons we just moved it away. Because he's like, you would have the 360, the PS3, and then he's like, there would be a line like this, other. And so it was just sort of like, okay, this is kind of ridiculous, And he's like, I'm telling you, Sony still does it today. He's like, they do not consider the Switch to be a direct competitor. He's like, they just don't. And with that, we're done.
We're done, yeah. So yeah, guys, next week hopefully we'll have some more info. But when's Donkey Kong coming out?
I think is it next week? I think it's the 17th or something like that.
Yeah, so I can't wait for you to.
Well, I already have it pre-ordered, man. I'm just waiting for it to download.
Oh, really? Oh, good that you're getting it on.
I'm getting that on launch, man.
Digital,
I can't wait. No, I you have no choice with the Switch 2. Everything's digital now, so it is what it is. Oh yeah. Okay, guys, we got to keep it under an hour. So, guys, we'll catch you next week. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.